If, like us, you like travelling almost as much as you like board games, then the new game Route East might be one for you.
So today we're going to give you 5 reasons why you should be excited about this board game.
Hi, I'm Libby.
And I'm Julian, and we're from the YouTube channel Boxed Meeples. We've been sent this game, Route East, by the lovely people at Lost Adventure Games. And in the short amount of time we've had it, we've managed to get quite a few games of this in. We played it both together and we played it with groups of people.
Basically, in this game, you are travelling from Istanbul to Shanghai on a sort of backpack route. So there will be a lot of bumps and bruises along the way, and you are racing basically to see who gets to Shanghai first. On your journey, you're given 2 attraction cards, places that you must visit as you go along. So it dictates where your route might take you. As you reach each of these attractions, you will get a bonus for getting there. So that's always handy along the trip. There are also different types of roads. So you might be able to take just a normal bog standard road. You might want to pay extra and take a toll road, or you might end up taking a dirt track, which will mean there'll be quite some luck in getting through that one.
As you move across Eastern Europe and into Asia, you're going to have to be crossing many countries' borders, and who knows what's going to happen there. You might have to pay a penalty fare, or maybe you have to bribe those guards with some cookies. Throughout the race, you better not run out of money, and you better not run out of petrol, because then you're going to be stuck in trouble.
At the end of each turn, which represents a day in your travelling, you have to end at either a hostel or a hotel, so you have somewhere to sleep. And you aren't allowed to sleep at the attractions. So you have to do some careful planning as to where you're going to get to when. And obviously the hotels are quite a bit pricier than the hostels. So you have to work out whether you're willing to live the life of luxury or not.
And obviously, as we're discussing this, if this is stirring up your wanderlust or memories of when you've been backpacking yourself, this is probably going to be the game for you. So here's 5 reasons why we really love Route East.
The first thing we noticed about this game is just how beautiful it looks. We do actually have a prototype here, so the components aren't necessarily the completely finished product, but it just looks so polished already and just so awe-inspiring as you're looking at that colourful box of all these wonderful places.
Every single place you visit, every attraction you visit in the game has got its own unique piece of art. And that's been designed specifically for this game. You're not going to get it elsewhere. And they really capture these sense of awe and wonder you get from these incredible locations you're getting throughout Europe and into parts of Asia.
And I really think it benefits from the fact that you're taking the route from Istanbul through to Shanghai. You're going through some of those places that are off the beaten track. They're not the standard backpacky places, sort of Thailand and Europe and other parts of Asia, which are quite well known for backpackers and things. These are places that you might not have visited before. So it does really sort of get you into that wanderlust and that feel for, oh, do I need to book a trip?
There's so many places in here that we've just seen them on the game and thought, wow, this is a place I'd love to go and visit. And we've researched them and found out about these places. So next time we're going in a similar direction, we can stop off at these places on the way.
Having the board with the circle route in the middle of the table does make it feel a bit different and exciting and gives it a real modern feel, especially with how colourful it is. It really brings this style of game up to date.
The board is clean, it's crisp, it's clear, it's easy to understand, and that's going to make it really appealing to an entry-level player.
So this game is a fantastic gateway game, great for someone who hasn't played many games at all. It has universal appeal for all types of players in terms of the themes and things that they like. But it's also, I think, quite a nice filler for those that do game more regularly. It's a lightweight game, but quite fun to just whip out between some heavier weight games on a gaming night.
What's really great about Route East is just how quick it is to set up. You can get it from the box to the table, all set up, ready to go in less than 5 minutes. And the rules aren't hard to explain. They're all set up really neatly in the rulebook, and you can teach someone how to play it within sort of 2 minutes. Any variations on the rules are explained directly on the cards themselves. So, for example, if you end up with a tent, you can use this to camp an attraction overnight for free. It's a variation on the rules, but you haven't then got to find out in the rulebook, what does a tent do, for example. It's all these things that make it really streamlined and just fun to play.
So you're never going to find that this game comes to a screeching halt as you all gather around the rulebook trying to work out a technicality.
It's games like Ticket to Ride and Trek in the World this game is similar to. So if you understand the mechanisms of those games, you're going to be right at home playing Route East.
So So at the beginning of each of your turns, you'll pick up something known as an ignition card, and this sort of sets the tone for your day. It might be a good day, it might be a little bump in the road. So you could have an extra move on your turn, or you could have a trickier travel day and you might have to deal with a broken wing mirror or indeed a flat tyre.
So your attractions are going to be dotted around the board and they're going to be different each time you play. And where you need to go is going to dictate the route you move around the board. Are you going to take shortcuts to get across the board as quickly as possible, or are you going to take a more leisurely route, collect some more money, collect some more fuel to make your journeys across the border as uneventful as possible?
Yeah, one game I chose to go around the Caspian Sea rather than through it because I thought it might be a bit trickier to get across, and that was definitely the wrong choice. I took the long and winding road and wound up coming up last.
And on the flip side, I had a game where I raced the borders as quickly as possible. I was taking trains to make shortcuts and make it through the countries in one turn. But when I got to the borders, I was having a terrible time.
I mean, I said it was to do with your dodgy face, but...
Either that or my contraband I had smuggled in the boot of the car. But I drew on 4 separate occasions the border patrol not letting me pass the border, which gave you a great chance to kind of catch up for my shortcuts. And it wasn't until I eventually gave them cookies that they eventually let me over the border.
Yeah, you shouldn't be that proud of having to use bribery to get through border
It's not a winning strategy all the time.
But it does give an example of how luck works in this game. There are choices that you make as to whether it's going to be super lucky or whether you're going to be able to mitigate that with what you have in your hand. And there are even cards that you can pick up which let you roll the dice to whatever number you want.
And while you do roll dice in Rooties, it's always because of a conscious choice. Perhaps you've decided to take a dirt road rather than a conventional road, and you have to roll a dice to see if you're going to be successful on that. You might be trying to cut off half the map by using a ferry, and the only way that's going to work is if you roll a specific number. And you're going to be stuck there for a long time if luck isn't on your side. But it never feels like the game's being particularly unfair unless you force it to be. So if you are a more seasoned gamer, you can spend a lot of time weighing up the various pros and cons of different routes around the map to maximise your success in this game. So as you're playing Rooties, you're going on your own journey across the map to visit the attractions you need to. But that doesn't mean you're not aware of what everyone else is doing. This game really does feel like a race.
So we spoke about the ignition cards that you have to deal with at the beginning of each of your days, but there are also action cards, many of which help you along the way, but there's also quite a few which can hinder your opponent or even help them.
So I've got here, you can steal $50 from another player, or you can steal fuel from another player.
And money and fuel in this game are tight, so they are harsh things to do.
The only way you can pick these up is by sacrificing one of your movements, but often it's worth doing because if someone's streaking ahead, you're going to want to slow them down, so you're going to want to have some of these action cards in the back pocket.
And also within this pile there are ones that let you go straight through a border without having to stop, without having to pay the fuel or the border costs. So those are like gold dust and you really want to have picked some of those up.
So how you use these cards are really going to reflect what sort of player you are. I mean, I'm never going to help you in this game. I'm going to do my best to kind of slow you down.
How mean. I mean, I helped you in one of our games and give you a fuel token, but that was because I knew that I was going to win already. So it didn't matter.
I think if you're playing with people who are perhaps new to games and you want them to enjoy your hobby, giving them a leg up by giving them a card so the experience isn't sour is not a bad thing to do if it means they overall enjoy the game more.
I did play with my parents and they don't game that often. My mum was stuck at a border and my dad was very chivalrous and gave her the fuel token because he felt sorry for her after the third turn. There isn't enough resources at the start, so you kind of either need to go to an ATM or fuel station to pick up these things, or you need to steal them from an opponent. But the fact that someone can then give you something back, or you can give something back to them having stolen them when you're in a better position later down the line, does sort of balance it out.
The action decks are really interesting in changing the way this game is played. I mean, in this deck there are cards even that says no, where someone can maniacally laugh as they lay down a card saying they're taking one of your cards randomly, and you can say no, you're not going to do that, and defeat their whole strategy and go on to win. It's just, this deck itself makes this game more flexible. It makes it more inviting for new people, and it makes it ways that you can help them if you're an alpha gamer, or it can really spice up the game if you're playing with people who are happy with it being a really take that style game.
One of the things we like most about this game is the story element to it. It's actually based on the true life story of Johnny and George, two of the game designers, and their trip along the Silk Road. And you can see this in the car that's on the front of the box called Judith. That's their car that they had in their trip. And some of the action cards that come along the way, like for example, the broken wing mirror, that happened on their trip. And I think you can really tell that it's made by people who have been traveling and have had those little bits and pieces that are nightmares on the day, and then you look back to and you find hilarious when you're retelling the story years later.
Yeah, would love to be there where they get drunk and then can't continue their journey. That would have been an eventful moment. When you talk about playing this game, you're not going to be talking about the dice you've rolled or the cards you drew. You're going to be talking about the experience you had on the journey. You're going to be talking about the time you spent 5 turns waiting to get across the border. You're going to be talking about the time you helped someone else just by giving them some money so they could get a hotel to stay in. And it kind of reflects your real life experiences, and anyone who's done travelling is going to be able to inject their own stories into this game as they play.
Yeah, I certainly retold my eventful bus trip through Thailand, going to Koh Phangan, where the seat of the bus wasn't actually attached to the base of the bus. So we were holding onto the seat in front for dear life. And it's stories like that that come up in this game which make it a great sort of getting together, chatting, having fun kind of game.
You can tell the designers had a fantastic experience having that journey, and it's so wonderful to feel that in the very fabric of the game.
We hope these 5 points have helped you see whether Route East is going to be the game for you.
We've certainly had a fantastic time playing it, and if you've got any questions about our experience, feel free to add a comment below and we'll answer them as soon as we can.
If you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel.
And while you head to Kickstarter to back this fantastic game, I think we're going to be looking online to plan our next holiday. It stirred up the wanderlust just that much.